All right, hey trader, TG Watkins here. Let's see, it's June 21st when I'm recording this. Hope everybody's having a good day. We are looking at the markets pulling back, but we have been expecting that for a couple of days, few weeks, and we'll be going through that and taking a look at it. Remember, if you guys are interested in the way that I look at the markets or the Moxie indicator, you can come over here to simplytrading.com, and we always got a trial where you can pick up the Moxie indicator. And then also, if you guys come over to our YouTube channel, and we have this on the Profit Pilot website and various other places. But if you go back and you look at the 13th of June, I put out a market update out there. And, basically saying I think that we've seen the lows in the market and the lows in a lot of various names out there. And I think that, we were watching, I think some of the difficulty over the last year has been that a lot of names had already been repriced. They got down to their lows and then they basically went sideways. And so we saw a lot of basing for a year. And then over the last, I want to say about a month or so, we've actually been seeing a lot of names start to pop up and have strength and hold that strength. So it does seem as though something's kind of changing out there. The market seems to be okay with where the interest rates are, even if they might kind of fine tune it a little bit. But we are seeing some things change out there. And basically, I wanted to just kind of show you guys some 30,000 foot view and also what I'm seeing on higher time frames. All right, so let's kind of get into it. Thank you, Mirza. Appreciate that. So yeah, as we were looking, we know that this market is very, very high. In fact, you can see that here on even the weekly chart, kind of got up here around some resistance. We've even gone so far as to pull away from the moving averages on the weekly chart. So we just know that we're very, very overbought, and we really can even see this on the NASDAQ. Clearly this has been the leader, but man, look at that thing. It is way up there. So we're just going to need to give the market some time and some space in order for things to move back down and just see where it wants to find that kind of support. And then if we come back over to the SPY, one of the things that I've been looking at is actually back in 2020. So what you'll notice is this situation that we are in right here, where we have price up and outside of that 30 ATR, seems very reminiscent. If we come over here, let's get that, yep, right here, to some points in 2020. So even though 2020, obviously, we know 2020 was a very, very strong market, right? So there's no disputing that. And we can still see here where price got up outside of those outer boundaries. And what happened each time it got up there? Well, we got some pretty serious pullbacks. Now, maybe in this situation, they were more exaggerated or extreme. We don't know what we're going to get as far as this current pullback. But what I can tell you is basically price came back down to, well, actually the daily 21, even below the daily 21, and ultimately to the daily 50. And then a little bit later is even more severe and came down below the daily 50. One thing to also think about, and let me just slide this over here, right about there. If we look at, and I think this is the reason, hang on, there we go. I think the reason why this one was such a big pullback is, and I remember trading this at the time, that everyone's like, what are we gonna do about this previous high? What are we gonna do? We're just gonna be, because this was definitely still COVID, and we had this huge drop down here, and we managed to recover all the way back up there. And there was really some question as to can we actually make new highs during this time? Like what's going to actually happen? Is this going to be resistance, or are we going to pop up and then fail? Well, what did happen is we did pop up. It got a little overbought, it got pretty excessive, and probably a lot of people thought, oh yeah, this is where we sell, and at least we made our money back. And there's probably a lot of natural sellers because not only did everybody, not only did people get their money back and then some, they all sold into it thinking, well, there's no way that this is going to keep going and there's no way this is going to last, that kind of thought. And so we got a really big pullback. And in fact, the next move after that still wasn't quite believed. And so we had to do a double bottom before moving up. You can see that too. We even did a double bottom right in through here. So it's just kind of some interesting things back in 2020 that I've been looking at that we should be aware of. Because if we look where we are currently, slide this over again. Let's do this. It was a much longer time. There we go. And we can see we've got a ways to go until we pretty much hit the peak of where we were before this whole bear market started. Let me see if I can actually get that equal. There we go. So we definitely have a ways to go. Okay. So I think a lot of people are not thinking that we can actually get back up here, but I would not be surprised. I think that we need to keep our mind open that it is a definite possibility that we could actually come all the way back up here. And I think in one sense, the more that people doubt this and the more bearishness you hear or the more like, oh, this can't happen, I don't know, it might actually do that because remember you guys know that the market climbs a wall of worry. So, we got that, we got a lot of things going on. And so just the more and more this actually goes up, despite so many other people probably thinking that it's not going to, might actually add a lot of fuel to the fire because that'll keep the shorts alive. They'll get squeezed out, and then eventually, there might be some FOMO and people wanting to chase and get in, be like, oh, I can't believe I missed all this so far, and then that could help propel this a little bit further. So just kind of putting that counter idea out there. If anybody's thinking that something can't possibly happen, well, it is the market, and just about anything can happen in the market. But yeah, that being said, right around here, we are getting fairly overbought. And so we're looking to see what kind of pullback is going to happen. We're not entirely sure, but we are seeing some weakness in here and moving around. But eventually, whenever this pullback happens, I would be looking for it to come into support, and I would be bullish on those pullbacks. We just don't know exactly where that pullback is going to be. Also, let's see if we come over to the Dow. We've seen this thing just holding steady. I mean, really just holding steady. You can see it's been staying above the monthly 10. It even just bounced off the weekly 50. It's just kind of not doing much, not hanging out. It'll be interesting to see if it can actually break out at some point and, help the market, help contribute to the market. But as far as being overbought, we could also see that here. Here's that upper trend line. And you can see that natural resistance that we had right in through here, and you can see just popped up over it and then pulled back. And we were, pretty much prepared for this, saying, hey, this shouldn't be up there, expect to pull back. And then same thing with the IWM. You can see right into, let's get that zoomed down just a little bit there, right into some of this previous resistance. Got this line here, and it just hit it perfectly. So yeah, we'll just have to keep watching and seeing where this is going to be coming down to, and see when we can start buying that support. And then if we look at the UVXY, pretty astonishing. I have never seen this low. In fact, Lukewarm and I in my trading room have been kind of chatting about this because, I like to watch the UVXY. It kind of gives me a little bit of insight as to, needing to hedge against the market or getting an idea of when the market's going to change direction or just something like that that's going on. And amazingly, we have never seen it go this low before they split it. Now, I hear that they're going to be splitting it pretty soon, the next couple of days, reverse splitting it so that it doesn't go to zero, which is pretty normal for UVXY. They just constantly have to reverse split this thing because it is a perpetually declining product, which is fine. You just understand what it is. There's absolutely no buying and holding of this thing. But yeah, I was kind of looking at this thinking, we're watching the descent slow, and I find this to be very interesting that it continues to move down. It still can't get over the hourly 50. The 8 still can't get over the 21, and yet the market has moved down. The market has dropped, and this thing won't move up. So I don't know if something in there. People have talked about the UVXY being broken over the last couple of years, basically since COVID. COVID kind of broke it, but then the other idea is that maybe this pullback in the market is kind of expected and just orderly. And maybe the market has kind of changed character to be like, yeah, we understand that there are going to be pullbacks, but overall we think the low is in and now we're just going to be moving up. And so there's just no fear. There's no fear going on here with the UVXY and the VIX. And so that's kind of one thing to think about. The other thing that might be giving us a little bit of positivity, as far as tailwinds for the market, is I have been watching the UUP, the dollar, and kind of been paying attention to this right here on the monthly chart, and just noticing that price is underneath a now downtrending monthly 10, and you can basically see that anytime price gets over or under the monthly 10, that changes its direction. And so now I'm looking at this and saying, I wonder if the dollar is going to actually start going down because it's underneath that moving average. I still can't totally confirm it yet. We're still kind of in neutral territory here on the weekly chart. We do have the weekly 8 over the 21. That's technically bullish until it changes. We do have price over the 30. It's possibly bullish. However, we do have price getting rejected by the 50, and the Moxie indicator is below 0. So kind of a neutral territory on that one. We'll have to see how that pans out. And you can see here is getting rejected right there at the 200 and then rolled over. In fact, we were able to call this pretty nicely because for those of you in the Moxie group, this was the exact, these were the exact same patterns, exact same setups. So pretty crazy how that worked right there, same setups. And you could basically see the same thing on the hourly chart as far as the Moxie indicator goes. We could see that price was up, Moxie indicator was down significantly, and then price was over the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below 0. That's an inverse trampoline move. And then we could see the same thing here. Price was up, Moxie indicator level, then you did a double top, negative divergence, and then right there, kind of that same situation. You had Moxie indicator below 0, and then price basically got rejected by the downtrending hourly 50. So just very much similar, identical setups on that. So I do want to kind of see if price is going to break below the daily 50 and continue to move down. I'm not going to have too much to say about it other than that, if the dollar does go or trend down on a longer time frame, it should be good for equities. It should be good for precious metals. And yeah, we should see if that is a backdrop for the overall market trend and direction strength. All right, speaking of precious metals, I've been trying to find my way into GDX, gold, I've been watching silver, and just trying to see, okay, we've been aware of this pullback, makes total sense, and now what we're trying to do is just figure out where is this pullback going to go and when is it going to find support, because ultimately I do think that's what's going to happen. And you can see here that for gold itself, couldn't quite get past this triple top, not to mention it was very extended. You can see the big gap here between price and that monthly time frame, or monthly moving average. And then on the weekly chart, it did pull back. It was sitting about on the weekly 21. And you never quite know if the 21 is going to be exact support, and it's going to move up like that, or if you need to actually go below it someplace and then move up. The concept is the same. The exact level or execution can fluctuate. And we see this on a lot of different charts, that they have the same idea, pull back and then move up. Some of them sit perfectly on the 21, some of them dip below, that kind of thing. But I'm looking for this and saying, yeah, I do think that this pullback will eventually find support and strength. I'm just trying to figure out where exactly that's going to be. And so far, it hasn't held anything. So this one was pretty easy. That was a nice double bottom. This one's a little bit more prolonged. Just kind of still meandering down here. It can't stay over the moving average. It hasn't changed direction yet. It hasn't caught a trend yet. And it just hasn't quite been anything yet. And I was experiencing the same thing with GDX. If we come over here on the monthly, weekly time frame, you can see this trend line that we've had in through here. So pretty similar trend line as to gold, just on an angle. But as far as looking for that support and that strength, I am noticing that prices come down to these moving averages, and kind of the same thing here. It's pulled back, but it's pulled back just below the 21, maybe closer to the weekly 50, and at some point I think it's going to find support. The challenging part is just figuring out, okay, when is that thing actually going to turn around and move up? Now, part of what I was looking at for GDX is it looked like this was going to be that double bottom. So right here, looked like that was going to be the double bottom, and it looked like price right there was going to get over the moving average and hold it and move up, but it didn't yet. So still got to kind of wait and be patient. I do think that this is going to go up eventually. Just trying to figure out that spot has been challenging. If we notice, we are starting to see price lower, but the Moxie indicator is still very high. So I think that this will kick in at some point. The question is just, we need to just wait and watch and look for a more convincing move to the upside. Well, PJ, so on a 15-day basis, gold and USD are positively correlated. Yeah, I have also been mentioning that I thought it was very odd, UUP, that we were seeing the dollar move down which really should be bullish for gold, especially precious metals. And for the same thing, we were watching, GLD and GDX also trend down. So yeah, that's why I was looking at this, is because usually dollar down, precious metals up, gold up, and that's I was kind of noticing the same thing. And we feel like notice silver. Silver was looking pretty good. This was looking actually inversely correlated, which is what I would expect. But then all of a sudden, we have two really big down days. Just boom, kind of happened. So even though this thing was really setting up to go higher, it was holding the hourly 50. We had a trampoline move here. We even had the 50 start to cross over the 200. And we even got just the 8 just to start crossing over the 21, which is usually bullish. And then, I don't know, something news-wise happened, and boom, boom, it took two big down days like that. So, yeah, there's something going on with the precious metal space. And I can't quite put my finger on it yet as to why it's doing that. And if we look at the higher time frame, you can see that I think that big picture, these things are really just kind of pulling back and looking for support. Because if you look here on even silver, it's coming right back down into this moving average, which was support before. And we could see that we've got the moving averages and uptrends, MOXY indicators above zero. Even the DPO is a positive. I don't really ever use that, but it's positive. We've got a lot of things saying that this should keep going up. It's in an uptrend. We're just trying to look at these pullbacks and figure out, well, how low are they going to go and when are they going to turn around? So yeah, that's kind of what I'm watching. Good morning, Topspin. Yeah, anybody else out there in the social media world, YouTube, Facebook, you name it, let me know if there's anything else that you guys want to be looking at and where we can go from there. Because, as I said, right now, what we're kind of experiencing is mostly just pullbacks. And we're just kind of waiting for things to settle in, settle down, and find some support until we can go higher. Now, for the MOXY group, I'm going to be in the options room and the MOXY room. Let's see, I think it was 11:30 Central. So we can talk a little bit more deeply and in depth about some of these things. Like, for example, let's see, which one was it that I was looking at? Oh, Nike. Oh, let's get that. Okay, there you go. I think this thing should be coming into an area of support in through here. And we've been doing a little bit of a deep dive here on the daily and hourly and how I think that should go and how we can see a similar pattern back and through here and that actually caused price to go up. Now, the only wrinkle in this situation is that we do have earnings. So despite whatever the technicals look like, earnings are going to do their own thing. You could have the most amazing looking chart and it could just drop precipitously because of earnings report. Or you could have something that is rolling over and pulling back and then they launch it. So anything goes because of earnings, because that's just how things are. Anyway, as far as the longer term type stuff, NEOG, just another kind of random example of some of these things that I'm noticing out here that kind of say to me or communicate to me that I think the low is in for a lot of different stocks. And you can see here, even NEOG, and I think they do dog food sampling, testing, animal food testing. And you can see here, we have price back over the monthly moving averages. You can see here on the weekly, it couldn't get past the moving average, and then it finally got on top of the moving average, and we have a MOXY price trigger. So a lot of these things look like they are developing. Now, we don't know which ones are going to be amazing winners, but I do think that a lot of these things are done going down, and I think that we need to see them continue to move up. Let's see, yeah, SKT. I've been watching this one now. This is, I've been thinking this is kind of interesting, Topspin, is that this is real estate, right? I think it's, factory outlet centers, basically kind of real estate, but also you think about consumers. And it hasn't done terribly. Had a couple burbles in through here. But look at this. Look how nice and orderly this is. Look at that monthly chart. Look how smooth that is. Just magnificent right there on the monthly chart. And if you look at the weekly chart, it's got all moving averages stacked properly. It's got some squeezes. The MOXY indicator looks great, and it is generally holding. Now, I've only watched this thing. I don't want to really trade it because I just don't think that there's much As far as movement goes, it took 102 days just to go 23%. So it's not really something I'm interested in trading. Maybe for those of you who are longer term or want something that's slower, you just kind of think that this thing will do fine, then great. And it has been doing well. A little mixed here on the daily chart, but again, if you look at the higher time frames, it looks very, very nice. So yeah, I've been watching this and finding that if we talk about recession, something like this doesn't seem that there's recession, on the horizon or anytime soon that they're seeing, just according to this stock. ARRY. Now I've talked about this one a lot, and we took a couple trades on it back in the day. Not too much going on. I continue to watch this thing because I just think, well, ARRY or Max In have they're in the same space. Max In moved, but then pulled back. The solar space just isn't quite doing much. And even though this doesn't look like it's falling apart, again, you can see it's doing a very nice job following the monthly moving average, even the weekly moving average. It just can't quite do anything. Can't quite break out. Now, maybe this is going to be the pullback to where it comes into support and finally does. We just have to be open-minded to that. That's definitely a possibility. But otherwise, it just hasn't done much. Just can't do much. So I know I keep kind of watching it and through here, just saying, well, if I were to trade it, where would I trade it? So put some paper trades on. Just can't break out. Just can't break out. So that's why I'm saying, if this is going to eventually do something, I feel like maybe in this pullback it would, because maybe that will finally give it the oomph in order to go. But yeah, it's just not really doing anything. So yeah, kind of good luck on something like that if it's actually gonna work. And then Max In, another one that seemed very interesting for all the same reasons. You can see following the monthly moving average, and then did kind of break out and broke out, but came right back down and just hasn't been doing anything. So yeah, just kind of strange names out there. Ness here, good to see you. Let's take a look. Okay, if we look at SPX, come over here. Yeah, I made it back to daily 8. So that's kind of the first step. We knew this thing was very overbought. You can see a huge gap between price and the daily 8, and so now it's back to the daily 8. Now the question is, where is this going to go? Let's see, but on the hourly, Moxie is now above 0, and we're below the 50. Will be interesting if we get an hourly trampoline move before a further continuation of pullback to the daily 21. Yeah, technically there's a potential trampoline setup here, price below the 50, Moxie indicator above 0. There might be little bumps, and maybe there'll be a bump here because it's sitting on that 30 ATR and the hourly 50. So maybe there's a little bump, but I just think that we're going to go a little bit lower because I don't know if the daily 8 is really going to be strong enough to keep this move going. I feel like it's got to have a little bit deeper of a pullback. And gosh, this year, if we kind of look at this and we just say, well, what if price over the next few days was able to drop down to about here, which honestly, by the time that moving average gets up there, it could actually end up making contact with the daily 21. And what if that was just a day or two of a move that put price below the hourly 50? The Moxie indicator could still be above 0, and then we get kind of that bigger snapback. Because again, remember, price does typically tend to bounce off the daily 21. So yeah, you and I will, now since we had this conversation, you and I will have to kind of watch that and converse with each other to see if price number 1 first can make it down to the daily 21. If it does, I assume that there will be some sort of bounce. I don't know if it's going to be the bounce or the continuation, but I imagine it would bounce. We'll have to see for how long, and we'll have to see if that ends up being a hourly trampoline move. Yeah. So yeah, good luck to us. We'll have to watch that and see what it does. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to be wrapping up there. The Moxie group. I will see you guys shortly, and I will see you in the options room as well. And then from there, just remember anybody else out there in the social medias to come check out the YouTube video that I put out. I put another one out March 1st, and that was pretty much spot on. I was a little bit early as far as really seeing things set up, but I said that overall, I just think, and I wonder, I'm seeing a lot of stuff that says, pretty much the worst is behind us as of that October 13th low. And since then, yes, the market has been going up. A lot of names have been chopping sideways, but now they're starting to break out of those longer term bases and giving us more opportunities. But we're going to have to wait for those opportunities since the market is so high. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and we'll